Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Assalamu alaikum. Can everybody hear me? I'm trying to see if I can hear anybody. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi
Oh,
wa
okay, you can
barakatuh.
hear me. All right, so
Yeah, I hear you now.
I'm one of your hosts, Imam Muhammad Abdullah Ameen, along with Amir Khalil Abdullahi and brother Saleh Abdul Mujeeb. So tonight's topic is the pandemic of ignorance. In actuality, in this reference, this topic is referred to Islamic ignorance is a pandemic, and what made me think about this topic was that um, living in cities to where Islam has been in these cities for decades, for 50 and 60 and 80 years, almost 100 years, and you find people, um, Muslims as well as non-Muslims, who are totally ignorant of Islam. And what made me think of this topic again is that when I was coming back home, coming back to Philly from Chicago. Chicago is home, Philly is home. So when I was coming back home from Chicago, and now Cincinnati, Ohio is home too. All right, so
You got somebody
I go,
blushing in there. You got somebody
I,
blushing.
I go through the TSA. Right now, I've been traveling abroad from Chicago for years. I mean, I've been traveling to different cities from Chicago for years, and I wear Kufane. Every time I travel, I wear leather socks. I wear Kufane. So this particular time, I'm going through TSA. Going through TSA in Chicago is not like going through TSA in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, they know the Muslims wear leather socks. They know the Muslims have thicker beads in their pocket around their neck or whatsoever. So when they see certain things because of the culture, Islam has become a cult, been embedded in the culture in Philadelphia. The common people, they know it. The non-Muslim people, they know about these things. But in Chicago, though it's a lot of Muslims in Chicago, it's like five like five 500,000, maybe 800,000 Muslims in Chicago. African American, Indo-Pak, Indian, Pakistani, and Spanish, and Caucasian, Bosnian community, um, Ukrainian community. I mean, Ukrainian Muslims. So going through TSA, when I go through, they always swab my Kufane. One TSA agent, he said, okay, you know what I'm saying, is them slippers? I'm like, nah, these are Kufane, these are leather socks. So he goes, right? He go back through the metal detector and all of that. And the Spanish lady, she comes, right? Now, I was expecting to like give her some dowel because I thought she was gonna ask some more questions. So instead, she didn't really ask some questions. She just walked up to me. She said, "You gotta take them off." I'm like, "No, I don't have to take these off." I said, "These are Kufane. These are leather socks." She was like, "They're not leather socks. They're not socks." I said, "Get your manager, and we're gonna straighten this out. All right, get your manager, and your manager tell you what these are." So then I'm waiting. I didn't go through the metal detector. I stood there and waited. And because there was no manager on present, right? The guy who had asked me before, he said, "Man, just come on through." So then I come through. Now I already know the procedure, right? Apparently, she just didn't know that I knew the procedure, right? So I come through. He's like, the guy. He was like, "Yeah, we got to swab both of your cuffs." I was like, "Yeah, I know. I've been doing this for over 20 years, traveling TSA with these joints with these on. I know what the procedure is. Apparently, your coworkers don't." Right? So go ahead, swipe them, put the thing through there. I mean, it's gonna come back safe and all of that. Let me go on about my business. I was already early, even though the line was long. It was enough niggas. It was enough niggas in that line to shoot a Tarzan movie, right? I mean, shoot a Tarzan movie. It was enough, boy. I thought they was shooting a film. In Philadelphia on the way to Chicago, all us looked like cattle. That doggone line was so doggone long. I get a call from Amir Khalil talking about, "Man, you need to get up here early because this line is long as heck." By the time I got to the airport, he had just got through and they was getting ready to get on the plane. So I'm in line. I'm like, "Man, this line long as hell, man." Now I got there early. I was supposed to be there at a certain time. I got there like a 40 minutes earlier because of the text that I had got from Amir Khalil. So anyway, um, there are Muslims who work at Midway Airport that are TSA. Some of them brothers and sisters I know personally, right? So that give me the indication that the Muslims are not doing their job as it relates to dawah. Now, when you in the field of dawah, it's very particular. I mean, it's very particular, right? You have to be, um, and everyone is in your life. They they're not used to they're not used to being with someone or being married to someone who are in the field of dawah, right? Whether you're married to your wife is in the field of dawah, or a sister married to a husband who's in the field of dawah, or the husband is an imam or a sheikh or a teacher or whatever, right? So there are certain things that come along with them positions. You know what I'm saying? They come along with them positions. One of the things that come along with them positions that there's a lot of temptation, and that them individuals have to be very mindful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching them and examining them. So we're always tested with something, whether it's very small or whether it's very large. We're always being tested with something. You're in the field of dawah, you can't get away from that. It's going to happen. You're going to either be tested with the temptation of money, you're going to be tested with the temptation of women, you're going to be tested with temptation of certain things in business, unlawful in business, right? Because people
May
come
Allah
up with
protect us from
ideas.
that.
Huh?
I said, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that.
I mean. You mean, so in learning, uh, in learning Islam, right? Learning is an obligation for every Muslim. However, the responsibility of giving dawah is for every Muslim too, because whether we give dawah verbally or we give dawah in regards to our mu'amalat, our actions, right, or in how we dress, the people who believe, the non-Muslims that believe that they know something about Islam because of their association or their connection with people who are Muslim, they know everything about what we're not supposed to do, but don't know anything about what they're not supposed to do. So they're examining and looking at the Muslim more than they look at themselves. So because of that, it's our responsibility to give them, to inform them correctly. As much as much as it is our responsibility to know our religion, to know our way of life, to know our deen. I mean, because Islam is not just a religion; it's a total upright way of life that has religious principles, right? It has religious principles and fundamentals. However, it's an upright way of life. It's beyond a religion. You have spirituality, you have political, you have judicial, you have um, and political is the political perspective of Islam is something that is highly neglected, right? It's highly neglected. Reason being that many of those who are in a position of leadership have no idea about what true leadership really is. You mean, so we have, so because of that, because of that, many of us are politically immature, right? Many of us are politically immature, and what does that relate to? That relate to the lack of knowledge and understanding that is in regards to siyasa, in regards to politics. Sheikh Muhammad Bello, Ibn Ibn Uthman Dan Fodio, to cut him along bi I mean, he wrote a book called he wrote a book on siyasa, on politics, and I'm gonna just paraphrase like siyasa Islamiyya. And in this book, he lays out a format of what politics is and what it looks like in the Sharia, right? Now, the najasa that's associated with siyasa, that's associated with politics, the najas that is associated with politics is what people have corrupted in a political format, what they corrupted in it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's why when we hear about politics, we don't look at politics being in Islam, because what we understand to be politics is what the westernized politics look like, right? The independent party, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. All of them cats be lying. All of them cats be lying, and that them cats are campaigning for people's votes, right? In Islam, the people appoint the Khalifa, the people appoint the Imam, right? The people appoint who they want to be their leader. I mean, the leader doesn't campaign for people's votes in Islam, right? And you know, so I didn't, by me bringing this up and talking about this topic, it wasn't. I'm not digressing, right? I'm still on point with the topic in regards to ignorance being a pandemic, right? Because we're steady faced with the onslaught of ignorance, because we may learn one text, or we may learn from one teacher, and we don't learn from any other teachers, right? But the one teacher that we have doesn't have all of the capacity and capabilities to teach us everything that we need to know. So we have to go find another teacher that is a professional in another field. Like for example, only have two teachers out of all of the teachers that I've had in Islam as a Muslim, right? That I learned Islam from. Only had two teachers, have two teachers that I learned everything from, that I learned Quran from, that I learned Hadith from, that I learned Arabic from, that I learned fiqh from. Only two teachers. One of them is a Shafi and one of them is a Maliki, right? I had one Hanafi teacher, right? I take that back. I had like maybe 4 Hanafi teachers, but only two of them Hanafi teachers I learned a little bit of Hanafi fiqh from. I didn't learn it enough to actually take the method, right? But I learned enough of the Shafi method to actually take the method, and I learned enough of the Maliki method to actually take the method. But I went further in the Maliki method, learning the Maliki method, than I did the Shafi'i method. Right? In the Shafi method, I only learned maybe a few books. In the Maliki method, I learned a number of books. Right? Also, I have other teachers that I only learned Quran from, or I only learned Hadith from. I mean, so the thing is that everything that we learn, we're in the field of learning, we have to revive. We have to revive it. Even when we memorize Quran, we have to revive what we memorized, right? If we memorize 5 juz'ah, we should not let a year go past without reviving them 5 juz'ah every year, right? We shouldn't let a year go past. We should not reach another Ramadan without reviving what we had already memorized. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. Right? If you don't use it, you lose it. Some of the things that we learn, we don't even use them until it's a particular time for us to use it. Right? Like if we so we may have learned the how to make Hajj in the Shafi school and the Maliki school.
Right.
Though we never made Hajj yet, or we haven't made Umrah, right? And normally you go over these topics or subjects when you have the intention to make Hajj and Umrah, right? Normally, in my case, I learned these topics because they were topics that was inside the text that I was learning, that I was going over with a teacher. So whether I had an intention to make Hajj or Umrah or not, because it was in this text and I had to complete this text, I had to go over it. So every year it's something that has to be revised. I mean, it has to be revised. Like every year, at one point, every year I was teaching. I would teach the Siyam section of the Risala, while I teach the Creed section of the Risala. The Hajj section of the Risala I may have taught one time, and I stopped teaching the Hajj section of the Risala, and I would only, like, during for fasting, I would only teach sparingly, not every year. I mean, here and there. So the thing is that in my revision, this is me teaching them is part of my revision, my revision, revising them. You know what I'm saying? Going over them again, right? So as it relates to the Muslims being the Muslims, and some of the things that we are ignorant in regard in Islam as it relates to the Muslims. I don't know about everyone, but many of us has been married and has been divorced, right? One of the things that before we get married, we supposed to learn the ahkam. We supposed to learn all of the rulings as it relates to marriage, along with learning the rulings that relates to divorce, right? We're supposed to learn these things. So because whether we've been married for 20 years, 30 years, or we get married and then a year later we divorce and we get married again, and 6 months later we're divorced. We already supposed to understand and know the rulings as it relates to marriage and divorce. So there's no reason to have any discussions or debates about something that you understand to be a part of the religion, that as it relates to marriage and divorce. You know that there's a position to where the man offers the dowry to the woman, and then you know that there's a position to where the woman requests the mahar, requests the dowry from a brother. This is something that is known, right? Whatever position that you take, that's what you go with. There's no need to have a discussion where you wanna prove your position or prove the position that you take. It's unnecessary. I mean, it's the same as with the salah. I mean, one of my old timers when I was in Chicago, we had prayed, we had finished praying Salat al-Asr, and I prayed Subh. And this old timer been knowing me to pray Subh for more than 20 years. He been knowing me to pray Subh, right? So after we got finished praying, I had gave him a gift, right? I threw him a gift. I mean, a sipad, right? And he had looked at them. I had just not restrung. I just restrung these joints. The sipad that I gave him, I had just restrung them like maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago, right? And then I gave them to him because what I'm saying, I wanted him to have them. You know what I mean? And this was somebody that what I'm saying, that I grew up under them, right? So as soon as he had grabbed, he said, bit out. I'm like, yeah. I started laughing at him. He's like, yeah, what I'm saying, we've always heard arguments about the use of zikr, sipha, and praying with your hands to the side and all of this stuff, right? And you never think that you will hear these arguments again, right? Years ago, the position of the hands in the salah has always been an issue, what I'm saying, in Chicago. Really, what I'm saying, the fiqh has always been the issue, right? That, what I'm saying, people, they would say, well, we follow Quran and Sunnah. What I'm saying? Some people, you hear them say that, man, you need to stay away from fiqh. Like fiqh is exempt from Quran and Sunnah. You need to understand fiqh in order to apply Quran and Sunnah in a practical manner. Even when you as it relates to the hadith of Jibril, what Jibril alayhi salatu wasalam asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Akhbirni ihsan." Inform me what is ihsan. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, ihsan is to worship Allah as though you see him. Though you do not see him, know that he sees you. Right? So that, what I'm saying, in general, that's what ihsan is. So how is ihsan actually applied? How do you practice ihsan? Right? The way that you practice the practical manner in which you perform mu'amalat, the practice of ihsan utilizes another term, which is tasawwuf. Tasawwuf is the actual practice of ihsan, which tasawwuf in general is practicing what you know of the Sharia. Practicing what you know of the Sharia and confirming, changing your character to the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the application of ihsan. But if you come through a vessel of learning to where when you hear Sufism, the term Sufism or the term tasawwuf, that is, it becomes like the term tasawwuf or Sufism is like a is like a a word that you shouldn't use, or it's like a taboo, then you don't really know how to apply ihsan, because anyone you ask anyone that has an issue with the term tasawwuf, right, or have an issue with the term Sufism, even if they call tasawwuf taskiya to kulub or taskiya to nafs, right? No matter what term you use, it's still tasawwuf. It's still tasawwuf, and it still applies ihsan. What else is ihsan? It's taqwa, fearful awareness, being mindful and taking heed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So if you have if a person has an issue with the term Sufism or term tasawwuf, they actually have an issue with ihsan because they don't know what it is. They don't know how to apply it. Even with the topic topic of iman or creed, right, or aqidah. Many of the people who have discussions and debates about aqidah, they don't understand. The main thing that many don't understand is what is creation and what is befitting for the creator, right? Anyone who has studied to aqidah, they know that in anything that is created, anything that's in creation, anything that is a creation, it has three uh it has three it's three things that everything in creation has, right? One is a jawhar, a particle. Two is an arid, attribute of a particle. And three is a jism. Everything in creation has that. And two or more jawhars is a jism. Two or more particles is a body. A jism is a body. So if an individual understands that, they would never say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is attributed with a hand. They'll never say that yet. They would never give that literal translation to yet. They would give the Shara'i translation to yet, which is to leave the meaning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because it is not befitting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have a body part. It is not befitting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you to give the translation to wajh, face, right? Because have a face is not befitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you look at all of these things that they give that they translate these Arabic words into, what face for what, hand for yed, shin for sheikh, all of these things have a modality. All of these things have a how. What is the how for the hand? It has a length, it has a width, it has veins, it has nerve endings, it has everything that is in creation in order for it to be connected to a body, right? To give these translations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for these attributes with an English translation, you're giving Allah ta'ala a body, and Allah ta'ala is not a body. And for anything that has a body is in a place, and Allah Ta'ala is not in a place. Anything that is a body is in a certain direction, and Allah Ta'ala is not in a direction. Everything that is in creation has them three things. So Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is exempt from them things, because Allah Ta'ala is not a creation. even when you delve into the science of Iman, I mean the science of Islam, which is the science of fiqh, right? Fiqh is derived from the book and the sunnah, to have understanding of the book and the sunnah. So what does that mean? You have to have the fundamentals to actually understand the sources of the Quran and Sunnah. So if you're following a method, the method is not exempt from Quran and Sunnah. The source of that method is the Quran. The source of Aqidah is the Quran. The source of Ihsan is the Quran. It's the Quran. So because the Quran is the source, the narrations from the Prophet ﷺ are also included in the source. Why? Because what the Prophet ﷺ, how he practiced the Quran, is where we get the Sunnah. All right. So even my intention was not to actually make this a class, but it seemed like I couldn't get away from actually making it a class, right? Because I had each point that I brought up, I had to try to clarify it. You know what I mean? So if it's almost like I've been running my mouth for almost 40 minutes, 35 minutes.
I was about to say Takbir, Lord Akbar, Takbir.
And it feels like I done gave a khutbah. My khutbahs don't even be this long.
I was like, let him cook, man. Let him cook. Let him land. I ain't gonna stop you. I ain't gonna stop you. Yeah, so how you feel about it? You
Go ahead. I'll let you go ahead, or inshallah.
All right, so man, you know what I'm saying? I'm done. I'm done for the moment. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Saleh,
No,
he came
you
on.
ain't done yet, killer. We gonna bring you back so you can kill some more, all right? We ain't gonna let you go right now, killer. We gonna keep you over there, nice, hot, and steamy,
Yo, somebody said famous for flowing. Famous for flowing said yes. Your cook balls be that long.
Who said
that? That's Abdul Savvy.
Yo. Yo.
But go ahead, so
I don't even know where to start. Y'all came up with this idea. Me personally, right?
So look, all right, Sully, I got something for you.
I was cracking on y'all. I said I seen the title. I said, oh, here you go with the scientific monolithic
I
names.
got you.
Pandemic of what is the social illness or what is metamorphed into the psychology.
I'm gonna throw something at you right here, Sully. Right? Remember last weekend? You posted a joint about the Salat?
Yeah.
About main man said he prayed sitting down.
Yeah.
All right. So now you read the whole joint. Most people that don't understand, what you did, you had one brother on there who was snapping. I ain't, going on, talk about what is it, your business and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I heard that was Awesome's son, right? That's Awesome's son, right?
We ain't getting into the specifics, but my
man,
case
it's clear as day, man. He put it on paper, man. It's right his name in the Alpha Davis.
I ain't know all that, man. You trying to make a point, right? So the what you call it, the problem with that type of approach is that most of the time, and I think that this was probably where this was coming at, inadvertently.
Excuse me.
Inadvertently, when I'm realizing this, all right, Southside Queens listening. So inadvertently, what I'm starting to realize in our time. I don't know if y'all haven't seen this, y'all gotta look a little, just look a little bit more, and look a little bit more closely. Most of our people hate the Sunnah without saying, "I hate the Sunnah," because we hate discipline. We hate discipline. If you ever go back, you just take it all the way back. Go back and go back to when Malcolm was alive, rahmatullahi alayhi, right? One of the things that all of the old heads attest to is our very city right now that we live in. They said Philadelphia, there was a cap on Philly as long as Malcolm was alive. Once he died, the cap blew off, between Philly and Newark, Jersey, Brick City. That joint just became like the most crookedest in that group of the Nation of Islam, right? As a matter of fact, the killers for the Muslims, even when they crossed over to Sunni Islam, was from Newark and Philly, right?
And the bank robbers was from Chicago.
I don't know. Bank robbers from Brooklyn too, bro. That's what the 40 thieves with Alibaba and the 40 thieves and all that. We can go back to that. But anyway, but my case in point is that you brought up something that was extreme, that was a valid point, and it was a teaching moment. That's what I call those teaching moments. You can't focus on the negative blowback that you get from people. You know what I'm saying? Like, and sometimes people call you names, you know what I mean? Do all that. And usually when you pay close attention and you run that parallel with the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, you'll see the connection. The Quraysh hated the Prophet ﷺ in the same manner, right? Now, I'm not charging every single person. A lot of it, their response is out of ignorance. Many Sahabas, once they became Muslim, they went back and tried to correct their wrong. And so oftentimes you find, and what you find now in today's time, you have like a big bowl of knowledge or information, I should say. I'm not going to call it knowledge. Because you have the knowledge that what the Prophet ﷺ told us to make in a dua, that you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for ilmun nafi', right? Knowledge that's beneficial, and seek refuge with Allah ta'ala, right, from a knowledge that has no benefit, right? Knowledge that has no benefit. When you have knowledge that has no benefit, it's information. It makes you bob your head, and all it, make you bob your head, think like, that's deep. Like if you go through that whole transition, and we're kind of like in that, still in that phase. Used to have information with a lot of people where they always shared stories, that was always connected to like the intricate details of the prophets and messengers. Like, Musa wore a white turban with a blue stripe on it. That white turban and blue stripe isn't necessarily going to be the thing that Allah Ta'ala is going to question me about, but you spent all your time doing that type of research to look for. I'm not saying dismiss it, but we'll go and like study that as if, and I never forget, we was in prison, and the sheikh, he was holding a halakha, and he was like, I forgot what it was. It was something about a beard or something like that, with somebody's color their beard and stuff. And he asked, we didn't know the answer. Like, no, he didn't know the answer. See, that's what's wrong with y'all, brothers. Y'all wasting time. You don't know this, that, the third. You know what I'm saying? And so in retrospect, you think about it, sometimes we charge people with knowing things that isn't necessarily the thing that they'll be questioning about on the Qiyamah. Like, for instance, wait, before I do that, back to what I was saying with Saleh. Now, Saleh put up a valid point. Now, where the confusion came from is that most people usually pick up and read hadiths and just randomly read them, right? Now, knowledge that's of benefit, when you have beneficial knowledge, when a person practices something that you teach them, the Prophet ﷺ say that you will receive the reward every single time that person practices that thing that you taught them. And then they go and teach it to somebody else, But not only do they get the same benefit, from that as well, but also you get the benefit from them teaching that to someone else, and every time that they practice it, so it's a residual, it's like residual income, it's residual blessings that's constantly coming in, right? What better way to establish that by establishing that with your family and peers, right? That's station one. All right. So now back to the incident we're talking about. Now, most people, they just sometimes just randomly read hadith, and sometimes they read stuff that they're not even going to practice, right? Or they're studying it in order to like point out some sort of contradiction or something like that, right? So what I seen in that situation with Saleh was that you point out the fact, and a lot of people do it. A lot of people, they'll pray sitting down when they have the ability to stand. And Saleh is right. It invalidates the prayer. That's part of the fara'id, part of the obligations of prayer, is that you stand for the prayer in those parts that you have to stand for. You're only a minute allowed to sit if you have some sort of condition of where you can't stand. But, however, most people will be like, no, you can sit down and pray, because the Prophet even prayed while he was on, while he was on his riding beast, right? However, that was not established on an everyday, day-to-day basis. Secondly, what we learn from that is those are the nawafil prayers, the prayers that are the sunnah prayers or the non-obligatory prayers, right? Every fard prayer the Prophet ﷺ prayed, one, he prayed it in Jamaat. Two, he led it, except for what, 1 or 2 times? He led almost every single salat, right? And so now what we're doing is we're taking this and we're throwing the other things out the window because it's convenient for us. That is ignorance in and of itself, right? Because you're misappropriating and misrepresenting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in the midst of that, instead of sticking to the issue, and you'll find this a lot with people, instead of sticking to the subject at hand, people just get personal and start to personally attack you. The same way that they would attack the Prophet, right? Knowledge that has a benefit is something you can learn from, put into practice, and and get reward for practicing it. But most people don't put that knowledge into practice. They're always studying those things so they can be what they call argumentative. And so then, as you know, like Allah Ta'ala says, that when you argue amongst each other, and we're talking about not a person arguing to defend the deen, right? Because honestly, can you call it defending the deen if someone says, I don't accept that word to soul? They didn't use it during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. You're not defending the deen, you're defending the terms, right? Because within the deen, the thing that you're defending is that you need to purify your heart from arrogance. You need to purify your heart from conceit. You need to purify your heart from envy. So if you threw away the title but kept the subject within and of itself, because everybody changed the subject, people don't agree on that, so I'll just change it to this, and I'll use this alternately as another method or another way to make a point. So people are like that, and so then now what you have is that people start taking a stance. I ain't taking this, and I ain't learning that, and I ain't learning this, and I ain't learning that, and I won't take this because I only follow Quran and Sunnah, right? Which is a propaganda, a propaganda against knowledge. See, when you're standing on the sidelines and looking against something, you know what I'm saying, without actually learning and knowing, this is this or this is that, you standing by and you're kind of like criticizing, right? Most people learn through controversy. They have to learn through all of the argument to pull their own conclusion. But we know that when a person studies in this manner, the next person that come by that sound right to you, that's the person you're going to follow. And then if that person gets refuted by somebody else, then you're going to follow the other person. And then you'll just keep going around until you don't follow anything. And this is what you're seeing now, is that the majority of the Muslims, because of the way that they learn in Islam is through controversy, most of the Muslims ain't doing anything. You went from a woman fully covering from the top of her head down to her feet, now to they're wearing, I mean, what was the tube top, the halter top now with a kimar around her neck, arms out, belly out, toes out. Now this is where we're going to now, right? So it's And what happens is you don't hurt the deen, you hurt yourself. Because Allah Ta'ala will replace you with another people who love him. And part of the signs of you loving, loving someone is that you follow them, right? You'll obey them, right? You'll have respect for them. You'll have that reverence, that internal reverence for them. And all of this is belonging to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those commands in the Quran that you ignore, Allah will raise another people who's going to follow them. Meanwhile, you're still sitting there talking about Bismillah over a Big Mac. Right? So these things are happening. This is what's happening right now. It's an information overload. There's always somebody sitting in the cut, always waiting to tell somebody that they don't have to do something that Islam tells them they have to do. And that's why I mentioned that point about the post that you made, because it just got pure, just got straight up and down personal. It just got personal after that. It never dealt with the issue in and of itself, right? Because it could have easily said, hey, well, I learned from this particular hadith, and then it could have been a matter of what knowledge was beneficial. The people that was looking on, they could have looked on, but mostly people were even talking. They were either talking like they already knew, like, yeah, see, I don't understand why these guys know this, that, and the third, or you need to shut up, mind your business. Why you worrying about his prayer? Worry about your own.
But you know what messed me up, Imam Khalil, is that they see the work we put in, right? It's front in their face. They see we was teaching. They see we doing this. They see everything we do, right? It's people that's watching it right now, right? Do they think a person who teaches fiqh, if I knew this man was praying sitting down and I knew it was valid, would I have said something? No. And that takes away from husnul dhan. That if we know Abdul Mujeeb knows this, right? So if I would have seen this man sitting down, don't you think if I knew he was able to do so, would I would have said anything?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question. See, that's the question we need to ask ourselves, right? If I know that you're offering wudu, which I teach about wudu, what's the types of water, all these things, and you're offering wudu with water that is orange, right? And I say, brother, you can't offer wudu with water that's orange, right? No. Should you question that? I'm telling this man this because I know when I teach that type of stuff. That's like asking or being, I'm not a grand student or a teacher. I'm not saying that. I know what needs to be done to be able to make my things valid of what I'm doing myself, my personal, my fard ein. So that's like you going right to the dentist and he says your wisdom tooth need to be out. You're like, no, it don't. Why are you worried about my wisdom tooth? Why go to the dentist?
Right.
That's the problem we have now, right? And what made me think of an ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this in the ayat. Hukmul jahiliya yabghun wa man ahsanu min Allahi hukman liqaumin yuqinun, right? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do they wish judgment of ignorance? And whose judgment is better than of Allah? For the people who are certain, right? And then we think about the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that this ayah, he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala criticized those who refuse and deny the rightful judgment of Allah that includes all what is good and what is free from all evil. And they prefer to follow the human desire, the human desirable, misguided, and prejudiced views instead. So we will follow our desires. We go do anything that goes against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, just to follow our desires. Like you said, why you worry about his salat? Because I'm supposed to worry about your salat. You're supposed to worry about my salat. If you see me doing something incorrect, you're supposed to correct me.
And the Sahabas, they used to correct each other. If there was something they seen different, who was it? Was it Ubay bin Ka'ab, if I'm not mistaken, and Umar ibn Khattab? The names aren't necessarily important, but anyway, one was reciting the Qira'ah a different way other than the one learned, and he took and dragged him to the Prophet ﷺ and verified it in front of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? So it's not a thing. I don't know. We kind of like getting into this thing. It's almost we're almost going church like.
That's even in the adhan, the adhan of Bilal ibn Rabah and the adhan of Abdullah ibn Maktoum.
Right.
In regards to Hayya ala Salah, Hayya ala Salah, and Bilal, he would say Hayya ala Salah, Hayya ala Salah. So they said that Bilal, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam correct him. He said Bilal seen is a sword, right?
Mm-hmm.
His scene is a sword. You know what I mean? So you mean that's how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam corrected him. Even when they come to Master Uthman that photo and someone calls the adhan, we call the adhan of Abdullah ibn Abi Mahdura, right? If you ask someone who is Abdullah ibn Abi Mahdura, who is that companion, who is that Sahaba, no one will actually know who that Sahaba is. Well, he was one of the three Sahaba that used to call the adhan in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's masjid.
Nah.
Right? And the narration from Abdullah ibn Abi Mahdura is in Sahih Muslim. And he said in that narration that this is how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught me how to call the adhan.
No.
Right?
Right.
And the reason why that adhan is always mistakenly has been mistaken as the Maliki adhan is because when Abdullah ibn Abi Mahdura started calling the adhan in the Prophet sallallahu masjid, he was 9 years old, and he became Muslim at 9 years old. So when the Prophet sallallahu died, Abdullah ibn Maktoum, he went back to Mecca. He went to Mecca, and Bilal ibn Rabah, he married a woman from Shams, from Syria, and he went to Syria. So the only adhan that was being called in the Prophet ﷺ masjid was the adhan of Abdullah ibn Abi Mahdura. When Abdullah ibn Abi Mahdura died, he died 10 years after Imam Malik was born. Right? So from the time that Imam Malik heard the adhan, that's the only adhan that he heard. Right? Was the adhan of Abdullah ibn Abi Mahdura. Bilal ibn Rabah, he only called the adhan after the death of the Prophet ﷺ twice. Once when Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu had ordered him to call the adhan when they was gonna make salat in Shams, right? I mean, at the area there was I think it was the dome, the area of the masjid of Suleiman, right? And it was the ruins, and told him to call the adhan for Salatul Zuhr. And then the other time, when he had a dream that he saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked Bilal, why have you not come to visit me? So he went to Medina, and when he got to Medina, he found Hassan radiallahu anhu alayhi salam and Hussein radiallahu anhu alayhi salam talking about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and wanting to hear the adhan that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam favored, and it was the adhan of Bilal ibn Rabah. So when they saw Bilal, they asked him to call the adhan, and when the Bilal radiallahu he called the adhan in Medina, he called the adhan, and when he got to Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, he couldn't finish. So Abdullah ibn Abi Mahdura, at this time, he was like 19 or 20 years old. So when Bilal anhu couldn't finish, Abdullah ibn Abi Mahdura, he stepped up and he went up there and he finished the adhan for Bilal anhu.
No, subhanallah. Yeah, so which also brings us to another point is how we educating our youth and our new Muslims. You know, we have to start to set a curriculum for us, because most of us, we study Islam is sporadic and we're all over the place. And usually, so the first thing we usually do is we got the gift of gab when we're amongst each other. So, you'll determine a person to be knowledgeable based off of the information that they're dropping. They always got an answer for everything, right? And usually, oftentimes, you're studying the most controversial issues and topics, so you always got like an answer for everything, right? But when you question them about what are those things that are necessary for you to know, this is where you start to see where it falls short at, right? And this isn't like a thing to condemn someone, but what we're trying to do is to enlighten, people. And if there's people that's watching this that are educators or teachers, in Islam, this is also to put that idea, to turn that light bulb on, for them to begin to start educating people with a methodology in a methodical way, right? And so what you usually have is that people just randomly, because the most popular thing is to do what? Let me just go ahead and find a book. Let me look it up online, right? And so then we'll go on a tangent, right? About Google, all Google, who you gonna ask, shake Google, blah blah blah. That joke got corny. That joke kind of played out now, but Google is actually just a research tool. It's an index, like they have a Quranic index or Hadith index, fiqh index. You'll look up certain words and things of that manner. But the problem is what most people don't know about, especially when you use Google, Bing, or any other type search engines. They're going to give you the topic with the most hits. They're not going to give you the discussion. Like if you was looking up, how to tie a turban, they will give you the topic that's going to with the most hits, like controversial or whatever, whoever had the most hits. The true information may be lost somewhere way down, like 3 pages off of the front page, where the information that you need is really there. So this is why it becomes a bit problematic. I've seen someone one time, we was in this one in my younger days when I used to, like, my keyboard game was killing. It was on a bean. I was crushing them back in the day. You know what I'm saying, son? Yeah, man. But anyway, keyboard game was on a bean. And dude pulled up something. I forgot what the topic was. He pulled up something, and I couldn't stop laughing. I said, yo, this is a Shiite source, man. I used to go pull up something and you arguing from a Shiite perspective, man. You can't even talk to me no more. You know what I'm saying? He was just like going in. But the thing is, people aren't taught how to use that type of information. But you have to sit down, and Islam has to, it's on us to continue to spread Islam, right? Allah Ta'ala doesn't need us, because I'm telling you, what you won't do, Allah will bring another creation about that will do it. Like our children, inshallah, I pray that our children are better than what we are, right? Because nothing makes you more salty. Nothing makes you, hurt more than seeing someone else replace you. And not only they replace you, but they doing better, right? And then, of course, if you know the ayat, well, Allah Ta'ala is telling you, that he'll bring another people. What does he say about them? That they love him and he will love them, right? So when we like to be stuck in our ways, and be arrogant and reject the truth, right? You know how important the Prophet ﷺ is, and by means that the hadiths they're connected to the Prophet ﷺ, how we have to have mannerism. There's 2 ayats in the Quran that I can think of at the top of my head that say that don't raise your voice and speak above the Prophet ﷺ, right? How often with this hadith being narrated, we talk past it, we talk over it, we ignore it. I don't want to hear that. I reject it, right? Now that what's in the Quran is for you to believe, right? But when you hear these narrations, we just like, oh man, you know what I'm saying? Start disregarding the hadith. This is what I'm saying from the argumentation, from the lack of knowledge, right? Now, the sister says she had a question. Go ahead, type your question, inshallah, and we get to it. And so you have these hadith, right? and people will talk over it. They have no adab with it. Imam Malik used to make ghusl in order to narrate hadith. No, it's not anything from the deen, but that was just out of what, you know what I'm saying, that's obligating you to do it. But that's out of his respect for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He used to walk barefoot in Medina, barefoot, because he knew that this was the grounds that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam walked on. Here we are today, filthy, no wudu, no ghusl, you know what I'm saying? Probably just finished smoking a Black and Mild, and you heard about this hadith hot, right? This is what you're dealing with. This today's Muslims, right? And they want to argue about that, talking about questioning authenticity. Is that thing authentic? And dude, is you authentic, right? It has to be a methodical way. How many people, the listeners, how many of y'all are familiar with a school called Darul Uloom? It's a bunch of schools, but it's called Darul Uloom. Right? If you heard of it, put a Y in the chat. If you ain't heard of it, put an N in the chat. Either way, I'm going to explain it anyway. But try to get a little participation here. So if you heard of it, put a Y in the chat, okay? One person's heard of it. Let me get like 1 or 2 more people. It's probably about like fluctuating between 12 to 8 people online live right now listening. All right? Let me get one more of you, Y or N. But anyway, the Darul Uloom, in short. Now, I went to that madrasa too, the one in Queens off a hillside. I don't know where they at now though. But anywho,
in Chicago, that's Elgin.
Belgian, Elgin.
Yeah, Elgin, and now Darul Qasim is a part of Darul Uloom, Deoband.
Now, okay, so let me ask you this question.
I went to Darul Qasim.
All right, let me help me with this, right? What is basically the demographic or the group of people that you find in Darul Uloom?
Pakistani and Bengali.
Bengali, Pakistani, sometimes Indian too. So it's like
sometimes Indian, but they all the same.
Indo-Pak.
Yeah.
When you mention Indo-Pak includes the Bengalis and the Afghanis.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm gonna take it just a little bit. You also have the I guess what you call them some of the West Indians, like Guyanese people. They're kind of like almost like borderline Pakistani too themselves. But anyway, the point and the purpose of this is that they build this because, first of all, they're migrants here. They migrated, right? And so as Muslims, in order to preserve your Islamic lifestyle, you don't just read books, because that's the way that we were molded. I'm talking about people in the West. It's just read the books, right? There's one thing that you get out of a school system, right? You may not get a whole lot of things, but you'll learn 1 + 1 is 2, and you'll know who the continuity of generation, or who the first president was, who the second president was, and who's your 47th president. You'll learn that from the time, and they'll talk about the previous wars and things of that nature. Even if you didn't like that subject in school, you're going to know it, right? Why is that? Because learning institutions are set up in order to pass this information down, right? And you take it whether you want to or not. Matter of fact, most of our parents, that's all they care about. Make sure you go to school, get that education. You're going to get educated in school. You get institutionalized when you go to school. However, it protects and fortifies the legacy of American lifestyle and culture, the ideology, right? 4th of July, everybody could talk about, even the people who's in opposition to 4th of July, right? You know who I'm talking about, the 4th of July and all those type of things. Why are they saying these things? Because they learned the opposite about the 4th of July. It was independence. Most people be like, if you were black, Latino, like, it wasn't our independence, right? We were still slaves in 1776. They'll say that. But guess what? You know that history why 1776 was established, right? When it comes to Islam, it's not a religion.
That was at 1776 was right after the first Emancipation Proclamation, the first one.
But see that. But this is my point. This is my case in point. That's American history. 1776, the Shehu was fighting jihad over in Nigeria, but we'll never find out about that. You see what I'm saying? Even fighting against slave traders, right? Fighting against the whole concept and that whole thing of that the slave, kidnapping people and selling them off for slavery, right? But that story, that narration will never get narrated. Now, so my case in point of the establishment of Soullutionz, right? And if you even look at a lot of massages, they have that 1 day a week for educating the children and stuff like that, right? So what's deeply ingrained into their families? Now, Pakistan is a country that's predominantly Muslim, but it's not a Muslim country. They don't rule by Islamic laws, not an Islamic country. It's a country with a lot of Muslims, right? India is definitely not a Muslim country. But everywhere you can go throughout India, you can find a Soullutionz. Everywhere you go, if you go to London in the UK, there's a lot of Pakistan Indians over there as well. And guess what? Wherever you go and you find that there's the Indians and Pakistanis and Bangladeshis, there is a Soullutionz there. And guess what they do? They fortify and protect their deen where people will, learn. And if all of the masses of people don't come, they're producing imams and leaders that the next one can step up and transmit and teach the knowledge to the people. We don't have that kind of thing. All of our education is centered around controversy. It's centered around controversy. All you got to do is pay attention to the names of the masajid. All you got to do is go to the history. Oh, they got a masjid 2 blocks from here. Why is that? Oh, because they all used to be on the same thing at one time, and then they split up, and they became this, and this party became that. But any of the people in there, none of them are educated. All of the people who studied that I know of personally studied, they picked up and studied on their own. People left and went to Saudi. People went and left to Egypt and went to this place and went to that place on their own. But one thing historically, you can't deny with the trip when Malcolm X became Muslim and he went to Mecca. He also made trips to Egypt and stuff like that. There's a masjid in Harlem, MIB, on 113th Street. It was connected to Sheikh Tawfiq. Sheikh Tawfiq was one of the first people that benefited from Malcolm's trip and opening up doors for people to be educated, in the Muslim lands in order to come back. Not to bring back the Sheikh, because we just keep bringing back the Sheikh. And if you ever look, we never excel. We're always limited to just being a student for life, right? So there's no acceleration. And then when you want to knock somebody off their square, all you got to do is comment and talk about their Sheikh. Oh, your Sheikh, he ain't on it. Who did he learn from? Or where's that person? What this? And then therefore, what you do is you take them back from zero. You take them back from 60, bring them back down to 0, right? Meanwhile, this is happening. The people aren't being educated, right? And then what happens is with us, we kind of like set up this like almost like an archdiocese, like a this hierarchy, right? That the people that are less fortunate, may not have the same amount of money or may not have the education level on that. They never even benefit from learning from good knowledge, from sound knowledge, right? So therefore, the idea now is the concept is that you have to begin to develop an interest in preservation of your own family, right? How do you preserve your family? One thing, it starts with the head of household, whether that be the mother with the children, right? Meaning I'm talking about a woman that's unmarried, or maybe her father's not around, her father's not Muslim, or whatever the case is. You need to learn. There's a few things that you need to learn. All of it falls under the umbrella of what they call a fard ayn, your individual obligations. First thing that you have to learn is your belief system, right? We have to learn about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You get your belief from the Quran, But however, these books of sciences is those things that are extracted from the Quran to protect you from going into the Quran with deviant belief and coming out with more deviant belief. Right? I know that doesn't make sense to some people, probably go over their head, but every deviant group that had a rogue belief, a belief that was different from what the Prophet ﷺ came with, it all started with them, with their approach or how they approach the Quran. Right? Like you have people now. Do we or do we not have people in today's time that say they only follow the Quran and they don't listen to Hadith? That is something that exists. And this is a deviant ideology, right? Had they had some of those teachings with the primers, with the beginners books, right, that is extracted from the Quran and Sunnah, then therefore they would have known that there's no way that you can't say that you don't follow Hadith. Right? So these things have to be known as necessary. Okay. These things are, they're necessary. These things are necessary for you to know. So you have to know about your belief system, right? You have to know overall, the thing that you have to know for certain, that whatever comes in your mind, know that Allah Ta'ala is not that. Allah Ta'ala is separate from his creation. He's not part of creation, right? No resemblance or none of that. Anything that you put to your imagination, imagine in your mind. When you see television, when you watch cartoons, if you see talking animals, why is it always the animal? He talks in the voice and the language that you use. Like there's no other languages. So anything that you think of is all part of creation. We don't think of it of Allah Ta'ala in that manner. That's what Sheikh Muhammad was explaining earlier. You don't think of Allah Ta'ala in this manner. You don't make Allah Ta'ala resemble creation, right? So this is something that's important. You have to learn about the prophets and the messengers. We know that they were truthful. They weren't liars. They didn't hide any of the truth, right? Allah Ta'ala sent them as an example to be followed, because if they possess these wicked characteristics, then wouldn't that make you question Allah Ta'ala's perfection, right? So you have to understand this, that Allah Ta'ala is free from all of this, and so is his messengers, right? Then you also have to understand about the life after death. One of the biggest things that the Quraysh had, the people whom the Prophet ﷺ was calling to Islam, is that they didn't believe in life after death. And you have some people who claim to be Muslim that don't believe in life after death. You be like, yo, we got to do this in order to, to make our hereafter good. Hereafter, man, what are you hereafter? All right? All of these type of things. So there's people that have a belief that's crooked before you even get to the text. People tell you all kinds of things before you even read the Quran. People tell you don't even read the Quran, right? There's people that teach you. They be like, oh, don't even read the English, right? The English is just an interpretation. It's not the actual Quran itself. It's an interpretation of what the Arabic is saying, right? So therefore, it's full comprehension. You'll get understanding from it, but you won't get it in its totality. You still have to learn Arabic, right? But however, its beginning is good enough. But then also what you have is some translators, they're just that. They were just good at Arabic language. And so then they translate things. They weren't people that were specialists in Aqidah or things of that nature. And so then what they do is they translate, give you an interpretation of something, which leads you to having a misunderstanding of a particular ayah. Right? So therefore, what am I saying? You have to have that methodology. So the second thing that has to be known, right, is that you have to know how to pray. You have to know the times of prayer, how to make wudu, right? What breaks wudu, right? All of these things have to be known. They have to be known. There's no, I didn't really feel like learning that subject because it was just too complicated. You have to. A person that's engaged in dawah, like Imam Muhammad was speaking about earlier, one of the things when you get, calling people to Allah Ta'ala is one of the things you're going to do. You're going to do exactly what the Prophet ﷺ did. Then the Prophet ﷺ teaches that Islam is built on 5. Buni al-Islam ala khamsa. Islam is built on 5, right? So if you're building your Islam on 5, if you start to take away those pillars of Islam, then therefore you lose a foundation. That's why most of us it's easy for us to fall off, and I put that in quotes, or not be on your deen, put that in quotes, or just not practice Islam. Why? Because we don't have a solid foundation. People are mixing and matching. They're still missing parts of prayer. They might know the Fatiha. They may know Fatiha another surah. They may know the Fatiha another surah in the Tashahhud, but they don't know Dua Ibrahima. They don't know how to, end the prayer and things of that nature. And so therefore what? Allah Ta'ala tells us in the Quran that the salat is a protection from fahsha, from illicit acts, and munkar, from evil behaviors. Right? Allah doesn't lie. The Prophet ﷺ told us, gave us a parable that if a person had a stream or a pond in front of his door and he jumped in it 5 times a day, would he be dirty? No, he wouldn't be dirty. And he gave the parable. He said that's how the salat is for us. After each and every salat, it's a moment of purification, and it makes it harder for you to sin if you are praying properly. Makes it harder. It puts it doesn't make you gravitate towards that. The person that gravitates towards sin, I promise you that person ain't praying 5 a day like that. And if they are, they ain't making it properly. Because Allah doesn't lie. The Prophet ﷺ doesn't lie. Right? Most of our problems that we're having in our relationships in today's time is because we're dragging some sort of jahiliyyah with us. Right? We'll condemn a person who's been married multiple times, but how do you find a spouse or mate, if you will, before Islam? You just randomly, shoot your shot. You get lucky, y'all do y'all 1 and 2s, and if you like it, you try to make it steady, and then all of a sudden you trying to wife, or you trying to, make him your husband or whatever, right? But today, if you're like, oh, how do you marry somebody you don't even know? The same way you slept with him that you didn't know him, right? One has barakah and the other one doesn't. Everyone in today's time is trying to make a Muslim relationship, right, work based on a fornication ideology. There's no peace in fornication. It's nothing but stress. Nothing but stress and chaos. There's no peace in fornication, right? Nothing but chaos. So when you bring that mindset into Islam, right, what happens is you get that same chaos that you would get if you wasn't Muslim. You get that same chaos. And then you have to literally go through this whole thing. I swear, we have the Quran, but everybody's talking about traumatic experiences as if we don't have the Quran. So then we rely on the DSM and things of that nature, in order to make, self-improvement. So we've moved away from the whole concept of religion or deen, right? And now we're kind of using man-made philosophy and theory. Look at where we come from. Look at the transition that we're making, right? So anyway, back to the, the salat. Fasting. You have to know about fasting. Ramadan comes around. Even if you're a person that don't fast due to a medical issue, right? Due to a medical issue, you still have to know about that and know what you can do and what you can't do, right? Fourthly, zakat. You got to know who's eligible for zakat, what you have to pay zakat on. Most of us don't even care. We just be like, look, I ain't got it, right? But some of the things, some of the shoes we buy will make you eligible, based off of the price, of it, in order to, pay zakat on things. If you got a business, you owe zakat on some of your products to the business and things of that nature, but we're not concerned about that. So just those 4 things alone, most people really only practice 1 and 2, right? And in Hajj, its condition was based upon the condition if you had the ability to do it. But it becomes obligatory for you to know about it when you're getting ready to go on Hajj. Buying and selling. You have to know about buying and selling because you have to earn a living, right? Marriage and divorce, you have to know the rules for marriage, right? And if not, you at least have to have somebody that on your behalf that can teach you and guide you in those directions with regards to marriage. Now, the thing what's so interesting is that when it comes to marriage and divorce, oftentimes we learn so much about marriage to the point that it seems like the only thing we're concerned about is get married and finding reason to get divorced. All right, to get married and find a reason to get divorced. You have to have a methodology in that. It has to be a methodology, has to be set up in order for us to learn from, and to pass down the legacy. All right, so I'm gonna read the question, inshallah. All right, so as a brother that rejected Islam during the time of incarceration, as a woman, I'm still fresh in my religion, okay? But being of the love I have for Allah, what would you tell a brother that got discouraged? I try all the time to tell my family that Islam is the way to go, and the shaitan will always make it seem complicated. I have my brother here listening. Please enlighten him. So the thing with that is this. Another thing is that we're all going through that same struggle, right? And meaning where people are embracing Islam, and it becomes extremely lonely after that, right? Embrace Islam becomes lonely. What do you mean? You're trying to change. You're trying to change your whole lifestyle, and then you're trying to maintain, relationships with people, right? And I'm gonna give you a story, and hopefully it works. It helped me. So when I was younger, I took Shahada, and I was kind of like, like juggling, trying to, I wanted to be Muslim wholeheartedly, right? And I realized I had to make some decisions. So I used to hang out, my friends, we running around New York and stuff like that. And I used to hop out the car. I'm in the car with them. They riding around, they smoking weed and everything. And me, I'm Muslim. So I'm like, yo, I'm about to get out and pray. So I would get out and pray. So one of my friends looked at me and was like, yo, bro, if you on your deen, man, why you hanging with us? Right? It was like, yo, we still cool, but we know you on your deen, so you on a different path. You walking a different life. We still living that life that you trying to walk away from. So why is it, why you straddling the fence, man? You still, everything is still love. It's all love between us. But however, you on another path right now, brother. We ain't there yet. And hanging with us ain't gonna get you to where you want to go. That was very enlightening for me. It took a, and so I say that to say that, and also my experiences of traveling around the country and stuff and lecturing and stuff like that in different places, what I have found is that a lot of, especially American Muslims, they become Muslim, but they're lonely. They might be the first Muslim in the family, maybe the first Muslim in their neighborhood, maybe the first Muslim, whatever the case is, and then they're in a masjid where the people really aren't that embracing them that often. After they give you shahada, hoorah, yay, after that, you on your own, right? This is the one thing. You have to start linking up with like-minded people, right? Find Muslims. Y'all get together, especially if y'all going to establish yourselves based off of Islam. Y'all get together, read. Always constantly read. Learn the prayer. Stick with the prayer. Be patient. Be patient, right? Because, and I give you my personal story. When I got
can I ask a question real fast, Imam Khalil?
Let me finish making this point. When
I'm sorry.
When I got out of prison, right? Went to parole, went to Poughkeepsie, New York, and in that masjid, I was probably the only person in that masjid for almost like 6 months to a year, right? But I stuck with it, and before you know it, the community started growing, younger people started coming through, and it started growing, and started growing, and started growing. So sometimes you got to find your niche and find the people y'all like-mindedness. That's my case in point, right? Don't try to make yourself fit in a thing where you're not accepted, right? And that's trying to hang with your old folks. You're trying to get away from things that you used to do. You can't really hang with them. You can't juggle the two. One of them is going to take over. One's going to overpower the other. But you get together with like-minded people, and you might just have to make friends with new people at your local masjid. That's the best advice I can give. But it requires education. Education's at the forefront of it. I hope that answered the question. But go ahead. What were you about to say, Brother Soullutionz?
No, I want to ask her a question. Tiffany, where's your brother from? Answer that. If he from New York, and how old is your brother too? I wanna. I'll wait for you to answer that. It's probably gonna take a little bit.
Nah,
If if he's discouraged, on top of that, is he Muslim or not? Is he Muslim or is she talking to him about being Muslim?
nah.
So these are the
No,
questions
I
I want to
think
ask.
basically what it was saying is
Cause I invite him down here. If he need to be around some people,
he in Queens.
tell him to come on down here. Oh, he's not Muslim. Okay, he's not Muslim.
Oh,
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 so it's a different. That's what I said. So it's a
that's a
different.
yeah,
Is a
that's
different. It's a different dialogue. But what I say to you, bro, right? Like I said, I don't know. Just
okay,
that
okay.
question is kind of loaded and blank because it's like you're in the stage of still giving him dawah, right? We don't know his state, what he's going through, or anything of that nature, right? I don't know if he, just a hardworking man, if he's in the streets, So some of these things, if he can, just reach out to one of us through messenger, and we can really talk because we got to get just telling Islam is what it is, because some people, is winning in the dunya. And if they feel as though they winning in the dunya, they ain't not trying to give up everything they got if they winning in the dunya, right? And it makes total sense. Just say I'm just gonna give an example, right? He's selling marijuana. He's selling 40 pounds a week, 50 pounds a week, right? He gonna look at what is Islam gonna do for me? I'm out here, I got this money, I got these cars, I got these women. In this day and age, like this is the stuff that matters the most. So being humble, praying, being strange, because the Prophet ﷺ said that Islam started strange and will end strange. So give good tidings for those who are strange. Being the outcast is not is not it if you got to be in a mix. So if he want to talk, we could, I can understand, fill him out, then I can give him the advice that he need to know. You get what I'm saying? Because it all changed once you said he's not Muslim. Now I understand you want what's best for him, but he gotta want what's best for himself too, right? He gotta want what's best for him. And once he realizes, if he's out there in the streets, that nothing, we already know what's out there. It's two things that's out there, maybe three. Maybe you be the last one at the finish line, but more than likely, we always come in second and third place. Second is prison, third is the grave. We already know what's out there. We learned on many occasions what happens when we put our foot out there and when our feet get wet out there, right? So he got to ask himself, does he want what's best for him? Or does he want to be another statistic? And if so, or and here go the question for him. I want to ask, if he out here, if he playing around out here, if he in the streets, you ready to go? You ready to get up out here? You ready to have your brains splattered on the street?
Yo, it's funny. It's funny, Saleh. I started thinking about becoming Muslim after I finished getting shot at.
you feel me? That's what I'm saying.
I was like,
be?
Man, look, man. You know what? This joint it's getting corny. I'm out here, doing my 1 and 2s, and people trying to, like send me back to the essence. That's how I used to say it. I got to figure out what I'm gonna do in my life. What's going on? That's what started bringing me towards Islam, because Islam, and it's no knock at like Christianity, Jehovah's Witness, anything, but everything with them is love, peace, and hair grease. You know what I'm saying? You out here beating the concrete pavement. You like, man, look, man, I don't know about seeing no panda bears, homie. You know what I mean? Like, yo, I don't know about seeing this panda, panda bears. You know what I mean? But when I started looking into it, it was like, yo, hold up. I gotta pray 5 times a day. Like, so, and when you're talking about praying, to me is a big difference. That's why I usually offer, I say salat versus saying prayer, because not the same. When you think of praying, Where we grew up Christian, it was just always about kneeling and always begging and asking for something, right? Well,
Right.
Salah ain't that. Salah, you praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala random times throughout the day to keep you on your path. If you start drifting, oh man, it's time for Asr. I gotta remember Allah. And remembering Allah also comes in, is embodied with everything that you're supposed to be doing and what you ain't supposed to be doing, you know, what you're supposed to know. So when that prayer comes in, you hit that prayer, you can't, what it look like after I finish praying, going back to do something crazy, right? So this is what I'm saying. So, you know, it made me start thinking, you know, like, yo, you know, I got to do something with my life. And so then also, you know, it also prepared you like, look, you're going to die. You're going to die. And it ain't just talking about you dying and you just going to go to heaven because, you know, they all tell you that, yo, you're going to go to heaven through the blood of Jesus. No, that ain't how that works with Islam, right? You basically got to earn your keep, right? And at the same time, it can also, you know, your lack of interest can also destroy you as well. You know, so I used to ask people this one question. Maybe you could ask them the same question. Do you know if right now, what do you think your state would be if you died? As question number one. And then I always concluded the conversation when we giving dawah, always that, listen, you know that we had this conversation this day. And if you die, you know on the day of judgment, I'm going to be a testimony against you. That's some heavy statement because somebody said that to me too.
So the bro 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
So talking to you from my point of view, bro. So you already been around. You already know what's out there, bro. You know what's out there, right? Like I said, you want to be a statistic. You want to be another, you know what I mean? Like, you know, your mother having another fish fry for you. I mean,
Fish fry events. Yeah.
you know, you want to get cremated because they ain't got enough money to pay for that $30,000 funeral. That's one of us out there, or you want to get fed talking. You in New York, bro? They running down on everything now. You know, so you got to ask yourself all of them things, man. And now you got to, you know that we all 1 foot step, you know, away from the grave, man. You probably lost people. I lost people. Imam Khalil lost people. Abu Muhammad lost people. You know what loss is like.
Where Abu Muhammad at anyway?
Sleep, probably. You got work.
So, you know, inshallah, you want, man, we can go ahead and close out. Yo, Muhammad, where you at, bro? There you go. You got anything to add, Sheikh? I'm all wrapped out for the night.
He said if he going back to heaven.
What you call it?
Wait a minute.
But if heaven exists, then hell exists too, bro.
Yeah. And then there's things that make you gotta earn your keep. You gotta earn your way to paradise. You gotta earn your keep. But definitely gotta earn your keep.
He probably got the slobber on his face. Oh, what you eating? Cereal? You got the cereal bag? What you got going on over there?
Hey,
over there tearing up some cereal. What, you got some frosted flakes?
He was the Ant-Man.
This is double culo. This is it's a West African treat, man. You know what I'm saying? My sister-in-law used to make these joints for me in Ethiopia. You know what I mean?
West African treat, huh?
Yeah, hey, it's not real sweet. It's not real bitter. Real tasty. Drink it with some tea or some coffee.
I got to eat King vitamins and stuff. You know, I'm too poor for that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead, man. Y'all offer dua, man. This, you know what I mean? I drank some coffee. You already know what that called for.
Yeah, so I can add something, and you know what I'm saying, it's still, you know, it's related to the topic. I mean, we have to learn our way of life. All right, we can't practice it unless we learn it. And when we giving dawah to people, you know what I'm saying, we have to. It's very hard to give dawah to people that we don't know anything about their customs, right? We have to try to get to know the people that we're speaking to. All right, so that when Allah Ta'ala give them guidance or make us a vessel of make us a vessel of guidance for them, that we won't lose them in the process. Because sometimes, you know what I'm saying, a person, you know, Allah Ta'ala wake them up, give them some guidance, and then Shaitan immediately gets on top of them. Immediately. I mean, you know what I'm saying, from the start, because he doesn't want anyone to be guided, right? So we have to have a general love for the people. You follow me? And you know what I'm saying, and to do that, we have to express that love. You know what I'm saying?
No.
And we have to know what we're talking about. You know, so you know, we you know, so that's all I wanted to add. And it's very important. You know, it's very important that that we be welcoming to people. I mean, that, you know, we don't come off to people as though we're not approachable. We have to be very approachable, because sometimes our demeanor is what causes a person to be you know, to not want to ask us any questions, or to learn anything. You follow what I'm saying? Because our demeanor is intimidating,
right,
to some people. You know what I mean? So they don't know how they don't know if their sound come off offensive to us when they ask us a question or anything. So we have to be you know what I'm saying, be approachable to people. You know what I'm saying? And let people get a comfortable demeanor from us, so that they can learn. All right. So inshallah ta'ala, subhanallah, TMI. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Birahmatika ya arhamar rahim, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulil kareem. Ameen. Anyone who's watching us on Facebook, please like, heart,
share, love it,
share, love it, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. I mean, we keep this algorithm of Facebook going, and the algorithm on YouTube going. And you know, spread it. You mean, spread the knowledge. You mean, share it to your platforms, share it to your page, share it to groups that you're in that may, you know, so may find these videos beneficial. And everybody keep up the good work. I mean, it's a concerted, collective effort. It's not just the individual effort. All of us, like I said earlier in the video, all of us are responsible to instill that people understanding of Islam is clear and correct. So, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad al-Fatih lima ughliqa wal-khatimi lima sabaqa nasrul haqq bil-haqq wa hadi ila siratil mustaqim wa ala alihi haqqa qadrihi miqdaril azim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Everyone have a blessed evening.
Alhamdulillah.